Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into the ultimate what-if scenario. We're going to explore the story of Viridia, a society that decided to run a wildly radical experiment by living with absolute zero rules. We're talking no government, no boundaries, nothing. Let's look at exactly what happens when the fabric of society is just completely unraveled.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to genuinely imagine waking up tomorrow morning in a country where there are no police, there are no courts, no prisons, and absolutely no written laws. Literally, no one can tell you what you can or cannot do. Now, initially, your brain probably jumps straight to the word freedom, right? Complete, unrestricted freedom. But it begs a core question. When millions of people suddenly live without any rules, would society naturally become peaceful and cooperative, or would chaos step in and destroy the whole shebang?
Section 1. The country with no laws. Picture Viridia. It was this beautiful, modern island nation, but it had a fatal flaw: severe, deep-rooted corruption. Decades of politicians just stealing and police completely abusing their power pushed the citizens to an absolute boiling point. This sparked massive street protests that just overwhelmed the state. But here's the crazy part. When the leaders finally resigned, the people didn't want replacements. No way. They demanded the radical removal of all laws. The Constitution was destroyed, courts were shut down, and the police completely vanished. Viridia became the first country on Earth with zero laws. Section 2. The first days of freedom. So, at first, this radical idea seemed like a massive success. The honeymoon phase was absolutely euphoric. Taxes disappeared overnight, and citizens suddenly had completely unrestricted free speech. Without government control, creativity and commerce just exploded. You had artists painting giant street murals and entrepreneurs opening businesses instantly without waiting for any licenses. It was an era of unregulated free trade that felt, to a lot of people, like a perfect society. Curious tourists even started flocking in from all over the globe just to witness it firsthand. Social media absolutely blew up with praise. Viral messages were everywhere, calling Viridia the freest nation in human history. And for a brief shining moment, it truly looked like humanity had found the ultimate loophole and finally escaped the heavy hand of oppression. It was this globally celebrated illusion of a utopia. But what's really interesting here is how incredibly fast that utopia fractured. On one side, you had the dream, unlimited creativity, zero taxes, and total liberation. But the reality, which crept up in just a matter of weeks, was much darker. Without traffic laws, the roads instantly became deadly. Without health regulations, fake medicines flooded the local markets. And worst of all, without police, violent criminal gangs quickly moved in to take control, enforcing their own will entirely through fear. Section 3. The collapse of trust. Beyond the terrifying street violence, ordinary day-to-day life just ground to a total halt. Think about it. Employers simply stopped paying workers because, well, who was going to make them? Online scams became the everyday norm, with businesses taking customer money and just vanishing into thin air. Faced with this massive instability, foreign companies fled, and investors pulled their cash out fast. The economy completely collapsed. Food prices skyrocketed, and even hospitals struggled to function without basic medical safety standards. What Viridia experienced was a total system-wide collapse of trust. You see, in a normal society, laws create a baseline of predictability. You trust your bank because fraud is illegal. You trust your employer because contracts exist. But in Viridia, contracts suddenly meant absolutely nothing. It is a really harsh lesson. The invisible safety net of the law is actually what allows our institutions to function at all. A society simply cannot survive on freedom alone when no legal system exists to enforce agreements. Section 4. Survival of the strongest. The vacuum of an official government led to a grim and highly divided new reality. The vulnerable, we're talking elderly, poor, and disabled citizens, were left with absolutely zero protection. Simple, everyday tasks like buying groceries became dangerous, and kids couldn't even safely attend school. But the wealthy? They adapted fast. They just bought their own private justice, retreating into walled communities protected by private armed guards and exclusive healthcare. Ironically, the very country that abolished laws to create equality became vastly more divided. Freedom became a luxury item that only the powerful could actually afford. So the crucial point is that this reveals a fundamental sociological truth. When official laws vanish, unofficial laws always replace them. Human beings almost instinctively create systems of control. Power never actually disappears, right? It just changes hands. Viridia quickly fractured into all these varying mini dictatorships. In some cities, tech companies used intense digital surveillance to monitor and control citizens. In others, powerful religious leaders stepped up to enforce incredibly strict traditions. Elsewhere, violent armed gangs ruled completely through fear, which forced regular neighborhoods to form their own private militias just to protect their homes. The central government was gone, for sure, but highly restrictive systems of power immediately filled the void.
And beyond the physical devastation was a massive, widespread psychological toll. Researchers found that humans actually need order to feel secure. We deeply rely on the boundaries those rules create for our own mental stability. Without them, constant uncertainty became the norm. This created severe trauma and widespread anxiety. Communities broke apart, and children growing up in this environment became noticeably fearful and aggressive. The dream of unlimited freedom had literally turned into a psychological nightmare.
Section 5. The balance of freedom.
So how do you bounce back from that? Well, the recovery was slow and honestly pretty painful. Citizens realized they had to reconstruct society from scratch, and here are the steps they took. Step 1. Rebuilding the Constitution, demanding transparency and limited authority to strictly protect their freedoms. Step 2. Slowly reopening the courts so disputes could actually be settled without resorting to violence. And Step 3. Bringing back a publicly overseen police force to prevent the terrible abuses of the past. Slowly but surely, schools and hospitals became organized again.
And this brilliantly illustrates an undeniable truth for the rest of the watching world. Freedom and law are not opposites. They absolutely have to exist together. It's a really delicate scale. Too many laws, or corrupt laws, definitely create oppression. But zero laws will just destroy civilization itself. The people of Viridia ultimately discover that their true enemy wasn't the concept of law itself. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't the laws at all. It was the corruption and injustice of their original system. A good society is not one without laws. It's one where laws are fair, equal, and respected by everyone. At their best, laws protect the weak, they solve conflicts peacefully, and they build that essential trust we need to survive together. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. We all desire freedom, but we all desperately require order. So I want to leave you with a thought to deeply ponder about your own society. Knowing what happened in Viridia, how much of your freedom would you trade for the promise of safety? Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next explainer.